Ah, traveler, it's always good to see you. I have a tale, if you have time to listen.
A voice. Frank's voice. Kid, hey, look at me. You're back. You're all right? Rod blinked awake. The lantern painted the crossroads in its gold halo. Frank knelt beside him, leaning in, eyes wide and frantic. Rod sat up slowly. He felt light. Too light. Like someone had scooped something out of him and left a hollow place behind. Frank grabbed his shoulders. What happened? I heard. There was this sound in the fog, like the whole place swallowed its breath. Kid, talk to me. Rod looked through him. Not at him. Through him. Something cold flickered behind his eyes. Something empty. You're weak, Rod said softly. Frank reeled. What? You're weak, too broken to help. You sit here and rock and hide in the lantern's glow like a pet. I don't need you. Frank's expression cracked with something like hurt, quickly covered by fear, then by the haunted, defensive look of a man who had been abandoned too many times. Kid, that's not you talking. Rod stood. I lost something out there, he said, turning toward the frozen fog road. I'm going back. Frank reached toward him. Rodney, don't do this. Rod's expression twisted, offended, sharp, wrong. I'm not that weakling, he snapped. Don't call me that. He stepped into the fog without slowing. Frank's voice was already fading behind him. The cold welcomed him. The ruins remembered him, and something waited in the deep places of the frost. When Rodney returned to the frozen plaza, the world blurred at the edges, memories smearing like paint left out in the snow. He walked with the grim purpose of a man searching for something stolen. His soul, his warmth, whatever the ghosts had taken when they hollowed him out and left him shaking on the stone. He remembered stepping past the causeway again. He remembered the cold sinking deeper. He remembered the ghosts finding him. Everything after that came in pieces. The wind cut across the plaza, and he saw himself trudging through it, shoulders hunched, breath ragged, snow clawing at his visor like it wanted to get in. The cold gnawed at his bones, sharper than before, eating into his joints with a quiet, patient hunger. Somewhere far off, a whisper threaded through the frost. Aren't you tired of breathing? He didn't know if it was a ghost or his own exhausted mind turning against him. He pressed deeper into the ruins, and at some point, though he couldn't say when, he passed a ruined tower. A dark crevice opened in its foundation, and inside, two pale eyes glowed with a low, steady awareness. Not ghostly, not giant, not anything he could name. He remembered turning. He didn't remember what came after. The next clear impression was motion. Too much of it, too fast. Ghosts swarming him from all sides, not drifting lazily this time, but lunging, clawing, frantic and starving for heat. He had lifted his sword. He could still feel the weight of it tightening his shoulder. But the moment steel rose into the air, the memory tore in half and fell away. He saw himself again, or thought he did, huddled in the lee of a fallen pillar, hugging himself against the wind. His teeth chattered, his eyes drifted in and out of focus. The blue braziers that offered borrowed warmth seemed impossibly far. Snow stacked on his shoulders, his breath faltered. And then beside him, something crouched in the shadows. He couldn't make out the shape. A ghost? A reflection in the ice? Something mimicking his posture, leaning close as if listening for his heartbeat. It hovered near him. It reached. And that memory snapped too, breaking away before contact. Another image. The plaza trembling. Ice cracking like a spiderweb under a giant's stride. Snow collapsing from ruined roofs in sheets. Somewhere above the ruins, a scream spiraled through the frozen air. A high, twisting wail that made even the ghosts recoil. Rodney was already running. He didn't remember why. He didn't remember what chased him. He didn't remember what he feared most. Only the cold stretching long behind him like a shadow. Then darkness. Footsteps crunching over snow. His breath catching. Shapes gathering in the mist, circling. Rodney lifting his sword again, muscles tightening for impact. And the memory dissolved completely, swallowed by black. Nothing remained. No final image. No last thought. Only silence. Cold air filled his lungs. Rodney opened his eyes. He was lying on the frozen plaza, not dead, not dying, but surrounded. All around him lay the ghosts, motionless, silent, shattered into frost, as if something had torn them apart from within. Rodney sat up sharply, breath breaking the air in a plume. He stared at the quiet battlefield, at the frozen ruins, at the broken shapes of the spirits who had swarmed him. He remembered the swamp. He remembered the lantern. He remembered Frank's face when he called him weak. But this? Nothing. Only fragments. Snow drifted lightly onto his shoulders as the cold wind brushed past him. "What did I do?" Rodney whispered. His voice echoed softly through the ruins. For the first time since arriving in this world, fear didn't reach outward. It curled inward. Because something in him fought when he wasn't conscious. Something in him survived when he shouldn't have. And he had no memory of it. Whatever did remember wasn't him. Rodney pushed himself upright, breath spilling out in short, ragged plumes that curled into the frozen air. His ribs ached, his shoulders burned, his legs trembled under him with the raw fatigue of someone who had fought for his life. Only, he didn't remember fighting. All around him lay the ghosts he'd seen before, but now they were nothing more than cracked shells of frost, shattered silhouettes slumped across the plaza like broken sculptures. He staggered, nearly falling to one knee as pain lanced through his side. He grasped at the wound instinctively, fingers brushing against a torn section of his armor where something sharp had scraped across the metal clean through to his skin. He hissed. He was bleeding. Not badly, but enough to prove one truth. A battle had happened here, a brutal one he had no part in remembering. His breath grew thin, unsteady. He turned, eyes drifting over the battlefield. The gouges carved into the ice, the smashed pillars, the melted patches of frost, the scorch marks he shouldn't have been able to make, not with anything he carried. None of it made sense. Silence pressed in on him, thick and oppressive, as if the world itself waited for him to understand something he wasn't ready for. Rodney swallowed, throat tight. Then he felt it, that slow, deliberate prickle down the back of his neck. Eyes, watching him. Not ghostly, not giant, not anything he could see. Just a weight in the cold, a presence. He whipped around. Nothing. Just snow, wind, and the wide corpses of the ghosts he apparently survived. His pulse hammered against his ribs. Something was wrong. Something was terribly wrong. He didn't know what he had done. He didn't know who had done it through him. He didn't know why his body felt like it had been through a war. But he knew one thing. He could not stay here another second. He backed away from the ruined plaza, boots crunching softly over the thin crust of ice, gaze flicking to every shadow as if expecting something to lunge at him from the fog. The cold didn't welcome him now. It watched him. Another shiver crawled up his spine. No, not from the cold. From fear. Rodney turned toward the path back through the ruins. His breaths came faster now, fog dispersing from his lips like frantic whispers. He needed Frank. He needed the lantern. He needed the goddess, Vera, whatever she truly was. He needed someone who could tell him what was happening to him. He took one last look over his shoulder, at the silent battlefield he didn't remember surviving. The frost cracked beneath his feet as he stepped away, and for just a moment, just long enough to raise the hair on his arms, he thought he saw a silhouette perched in the far shadows. Thin, still, watching. He blinked. It vanished. Rodney didn't wait for another sign. He limped into the fog, every instinct screaming the same truth. He wasn't alone in his own skin, and whatever shared it with him had just saved his life, or taken it from someone else. He didn't know which terrified him more. Next time, Rodney comes back from the ice with more questions than answers. Frank saw what came out of the fog. Rodney knows what didn't. And whatever is moving inside him is getting harder to pretend isn't there.